In the vast, uncharted expanses of the galaxy, where stars whispered secrets to those daring enough to listen, Jax Harlan, a rugged human explorer from the distant colony of Terra Nova, found himself thrust into a destiny he never imagined. With his weathered spacesuit clinging to his broad shoulders and a laser pistol holstered at his hip, Jax had always been the type to chase the unknown, mapping forgotten planets, dodging asteroid fields, and bargaining with shady interstellar traders for scraps of ancient tech. But nothing could have prepared him for the shimmering world of Zerathia, a jewel of an empire ruled by the enigmatic alien race known as the Zorathians. Their society was a blend of ethereal beauty and ruthless ambition, where queens reigned supreme and clones served as extensions of their will. It started innocently enough, or so Jax thought. His ship, the Starhawk, had crash-landed on the outskirts of Zerathia's capital planet after a brutal skirmish with pirate raiders. Smoke billowed from the engines as he stumbled out, coughing into the alien atmosphere that tasted like sweet nectar mixed with ozone. The air was alive with bioluminescent flora, glowing vines twisting around towering spires of crystal that pierced the violet sky. He was alone, or so he believed, until he spotted the hidden facility, a sleek, dome-shaped lab half buried in the lush terrain, its doors ajar as if inviting him in. Curiosity, that eternal human flaw in strength, pulled him forward. Inside, the lab hummed with advanced machinery, pods filled with swirling liquids, holographic displays flickering with genetic codes, and in the center, a stasis chamber holding what looked like a sleeping goddess. She was stunning, long, flowing white hair cascading like a waterfall of silk, skin as pale and flawless as polished marble, and delicate, pointed ears that gave her an elfin grace. Her body was a masterpiece of curves, clad in a form-fitting gown of iridescent fabric that hugged her ample figure, leaving just enough to the imagination to stir the soul. This was no ordinary being. She was a clone of Empress Zorath, the iron-fisted ruler of Zerathia, created as a backup vessel for the Queen's consciousness in times of peril. Jax's heart raced as he approached, his boots echoing softly on the metallic floor. He wasn't sure why he did it. Maybe it was the isolation, the adrenaline from the crash, or some deeper, primal urge, but when the chamber's controls malfunctioned under his fumbling hands, releasing a surge of fertility serum meant for Zorathian reproduction rituals, everything changed. The clone's eyes fluttered open, locking onto his with a gaze that burned like twin stars. Her name, imprinted in the lab's logs, was Zara, a perfect replica of the Empress, down to the last strand of DNA. What followed was a whirlwind of confusion and passion. Zara, awakening with instincts unfiltered by the Queen's calculated mind, saw Jax not as an intruder but as a savior. Her voice, soft and melodic like wind chimes in a storm, whispered thanks in a language his translator barely caught. "You freed me," she murmured, her hands reaching out to touch his face, her touch electric against his skin. In that moment, barriers crumbled. Human and alien, explorer and clone, they collided in a frenzy of discovery. Jax's strong arms enveloped her, pulling her close as their lips met in a kiss that bridged worlds. Her body responded with an eagerness that surprised even her curves pressing against him, igniting a fire that neither could extinguish. As the night deepened in the lab's dim glow, their encounter escalated into something profound. Jax's human vitality, untainted by the sterile genetics of Zerathia, proved potent beyond measure. He didn't know it then, but that accidental union had sparked life, a hybrid child growing within Zara's womb, infused with the best of both species, human resilience and Zorathian psychic prowess. Days turned into weeks as Jax helped Zara escape the facility, hiding in the planet's dense forests while he repaired his ship. Their bond grew, laced with stolen moments of tenderness amid the danger. Zara's laughter, light and genuine, echoed through the trees as Jax shared stories of Earth's oceans and mountains, painting pictures of a world she'd never seen. But secrets like theirs couldn't stay hidden forever. Whispers reached the Imperial Palace, where Empress Zorath herself reigned from a throne of living crystal. Zorath was Zara's original, identical in appearance, with the same cascading white hair, porcelain skin, and those enchanting pointed ears that twitched with every emotion. Yet, where Zara was warm and curious, Zorath was cold ambition personified. Her gown a regal cascade of silver threads that accentuated her voluptuous form, commanding respect and fear in equal measure. When reports of the clone's pregnancy arrived, confirmed by psychic scans that revealed the child's extraordinary potential, telekinetic bursts even in utero. Zorath's envy ignited like a supernova. How dare this human bestow such a gift upon my shadow? She hissed to her advisors, her voice a velvet blade. The Empress had long sought an heir worthy of her legacy, but Zorathian males were weak, their genetics diluted by centuries of cloning. This hybrid, however, promised power, strength to conquer rival empires, intelligence to unravel cosmic mysteries. Zorath paced her chamber, her hips swaying with predatory grace, her mind racing. She would not be outdone by her own creation. No, she would claim this human for herself, demand her turn to bear an even mightier offspring. The Empire's future depended on it, or so she convinced herself, masking deeper desires stirred by tales of Jax's allure. Meanwhile, back in the forest hideout, Jax cradled Zara as her belly swelled, the child's kick sending ripples of energy that made leaves dance in the air. This little one is going to change everything, Jax said, his hand on her skin, feeling the warmth of new life. Zara smiled, her eyes glowing with affection. You've already changed me, Jax, from a mere echo to something real. Their love was a beacon in the darkness, but shadows loomed. Imperial scouts were closing in, their hover drones buzzing like angry insects. Jax knew they had to run, but where? The galaxy was vast, yet Zerathia's reach was longer. As tension built, Jax rigged traps from scavenged parts, his human ingenuity turning vines into snares and rocks into projectiles. One night, under a canopy of twinkling stars, Zara went into labor. The birth was a spectacle, waves of psychic energy pulsing outward, illuminating the forest in ethereal light. The child, a boy with Jax's dark hair and Zara's luminous eyes, let out a cry that echoed across the planet. They named him Kai, after a human legend of warriors, but joy was short-lived. The energy surge had betrayed their location. Empress Zorath's forces descended like a storm. Laser fire scorched the trees as Jax fought back, his pistol blazing, dodging blasts with acrobatic precision. "Stay behind me," he shouted to Zara, who clutched Kai protectively, her own powers awakening to shield them with a barrier of telekinetic force. The battle was fierce, soldiers in sleek armor charged, their weapons humming with plasma. Jax took down 3 with precise shots, his muscles straining as he flipped over a fallen log, grabbing a guard's rifle midair and turning it against them. Zara, empowered by motherhood, hurled debris with her mind, crushing vehicles and scattering foes. In the chaos, Zorath herself arrived on a royal shuttle, stepping out with an aura of untouchable elegance. Her eyes, identical to Zara's yet hardened by power, fixed on Jax. "Human," she purred, her voice carrying over the din, "you have awakened something in my line that I cannot ignore." The clone has had her taste. Now it is my turn. Jax stood defiant, sweat beading on his brow, Kai's cries fueling his resolve. This was no mere demand, it was a declaration of war and desire, pulling him into the heart of an empire on the brink. As the Empress's guards encircled them, Jax realized escape was impossible. Surrendering for now, he allowed himself to be taken aboard the shuttle, Zara and Kai at his side. The journey to the palace was tense, filled with stolen glances and whispered plans. Zorath watched from her throne-like seat, her gaze lingering on Jax's form, a mix of calculation and intrigue. "You will serve me, explorer," she said softly, "and in doing so, perhaps find pleasures beyond your wildest dreams." Upon arrival at the Grand Palace, a labyrinth of floating gardens and crystal halls, Jax was separated from Zara and Kai, placed in luxurious quarters that felt more like a gilded cage. Guards posted outside, he paced, mind racing for an escape. But Zorath visited that night, her presence announced by the soft rustle of her gown. "Tell me, human," she began, stepping close enough for him to catch her scent like exotic flowers in bloom, "what makes your kind so potent?" Her hand brushed his arm, sending shivers down his spine. Jax met her eyes, seeing not just a tyrant, but a being starved for genuine connection in her isolated rule. Their conversation stretched into the hours, Zorath revealing fragments of her loneliness, the burden of an empire built on clones, where true emotion was a rarity. Jax, ever the charmer, shared tales of human passion, of love that defied stars. The air thickened with unspoken tension, her body language shifting from regal to inviting. As dawn broke over Zerathia's twin moons, Zorath leaned in, her lips hovering near his. "Prove to me what you gave my clone," she whispered, "and I may spare your family." Jax's mind whirled, alliance or trap, but in that moment, survival demanded adaptation. He pulled her closer, their kiss igniting a spark that mirrored his encounter with Zara, yet charged with the Empress's raw power. Her hands explored his chest, her touch demanding yet vulnerable. As they tumbled onto the silken bed, clothes shedding like old skins, Jax wondered if this was conquest or capitulation. Her body, identical yet uniquely commanding, arched under his, moans echoing in the chamber. It was a dance of dominance and surrender, human endurance meeting alien grace. But as passion peaked, a psychic link formed, glimpses of Zorath's mind flashing, her envy not just of the child, but of Zara's freedom to love without chains. Jax used this, whispering promises of a stronger empire under hybrid rule, planting seeds of change. Little did he know, this union would conceive another life, one that could either unite worlds or shatter them. Days blurred in the palace, Jax navigating court intrigues while Zara and Kai were kept in protected wings. Whispers of rebellion stirred among Zorath's subjects, inspired by tales of the human who tamed the queen's heart. Jax trained with elite warriors, his human tactics outmaneuvering their predictable strategies, earning respect. One sparring match turned heated, facing a massive Zorathian guard. Jax dodged claw swipes, countering with a grapple that brought the beast down. The crowd cheering, Zorath watched, her eyes gleaming with pride and possession. Yet danger lurked. A rival faction, led by a scheming advisor, plotted to assassinate the hybrids, viewing them as abominations. Jax uncovered the plot through eavesdropped conversations, rallying loyalists in a midnight raid, blasters fired in shadowed corridors, bodies clashing in hand-to-hand combat. Jax led the charge, his laser cutting through armor, protecting Zara as she unleashed psychic blasts that disoriented enemies. The fight culminated in a grand hall, where Jax faced the advisor in single combat, dodging energy blades, landing punches that cracked exoskeletons. Victorious, he stood over the fallen foe, breathing heavy, solidifying his place as Zorath's consort. As bonds deepened, Zorath's pregnancy confirmed, the Empire teetered on transformation. Jax, once a lone explorer, now held the key to humanity's galactic ascent, but envy simmered. Zorath's demands grew, testing his loyalty. Would he embrace this new role, or plot a daring escape to claim the throne for his own kind? The stars held their breath, waiting for the next twist in this interstellar saga of love, power, and conquest. In the shadowed corridors of the Imperial Palace, where the air hummed with the subtle vibrations of ancient Zorathian crystals, Jax felt the weight of his new reality pressing against him like an unseen gravity well. The confirmation of Zorath's pregnancy had rippled through the court like a shockwave, whispers turning to murmurs, then to fervent debates in the grand halls. He could sense the shift. The Empire, once a monolithic structure of unyielding tradition, now trembled on the edge of something revolutionary. His human blood, that unassuming essence from a backwater planet, had proven to be the catalyst, weaving strength into the fragile threads of Zorathian lineage. But as days melted into nights under the perpetual glow of Zerathia's moons, Jax found himself caught in a web of escalating desires, where loyalty blurred with longing, and every glance from the Empress carried the promise of both ecstasy and peril. Zorath's demands had indeed grown, subtle at first, like the gentle pull of a tide, but now insistent, crashing over him with the force of a storm. She summoned him to her private chambers more frequently, under the guise of discussing the future of their unborn child, a heir who, psychic scans revealed, pulsed with even greater potential than Kai, blending Jax's indomitable spirit with Zorath's commanding psychic dominion. Yet, these meetings were far from mere strategy sessions. The Empress, her body already beginning to soften with the subtle curves of impending motherhood, moved with a deliberate grace that set Jax's pulse racing. Her white hair, unbound and flowing like rivers of moonlight, framed a face that held the sharp beauty of a predator, her pointed ears twitching ever so slightly when she caught his scent in the air. One evening, as the palace quieted and the distant hum of the city's energy fields lulled the guards to drowsiness, Zorath appeared at his door unannounced. She wore a gown of translucent silk that clung to her like a second skin, the fabric shifting colors from deep indigo to fiery crimson with every breath, accentuating the swell of her breasts and the elegant flare of her hips. Her skin glowed faintly, a bioluminescent trait of her species that intensified with emotion, casting soft shadows that danced across the room. "Jax," she murmured, her voice a silken thread that wrapped around his name, pulling him toward her. "The stars align strangely tonight. Come, walk with me in the gardens. There are matters we must attend to." He followed, his boots silent on the polished floors, though his mind screamed warnings. Zara and Kai were safe in their adjoining quarters, under heavy guard that Zorath insisted was for protection, but Jax knew better. It was control, a leash disguised as care. The gardens unfolded before them like a living dream. Floating orbs of light bobbed among vines heavy with blooming flowers that released intoxicating pheromones into the air. The scent was heady, designed to heighten senses, and Jax felt it stir something primal within him. Zorath led him to a secluded alcove, where a crystal fountain bubbled with water that shimmered like liquid starlight. She turned to him, her eyes deep violet pools flecked with gold, locking onto his with an intensity that made the air thicken. "You have given me this gift," she said, her hand drifting to her abdomen, fingers splaying over the faint curve. "But I sense your hesitation. Human, do you fear what we create together?" Her words were laced with a challenge, but beneath them lay a vulnerability that surprised him. Zorath, the ruthless sovereign who had crushed rebellions and forged alliances through sheer will, now revealed cracks in her armor, loneliness etched into her regal poise. Jax stepped closer, drawn by the magnetic pull, his hand reaching out to brush a strand of her hair. It was softer than he remembered, like threads of spun glass warmed by an inner fire. "It's not fear," he replied, his voice low, gravelly from the tension coiling in his chest. "It's the unknown. Back on Terra Nova, we humans chase the stars because they're wild, unpredictable. But it's like taming a supernova." Her lips curved into a smile, not the calculated one she wore in court, but something genuine, almost playful. She pressed against him, her body molding to his with a fluidity that sent sparks racing along his skin. The gown's fabric was thin, allowing him to feel the heat radiating from her, the subtle rhythm of her heartbeat syncing with his own. The night air grew warmer, charged with anticipation as her hands explored the contours of his shoulders, tracing the lines of muscle honed from years of survival in hostile worlds. "Then let us explore this unknown together," she whispered, her breath warm against his ear, her pointed tip brushing his cheek in a way that sent shivers cascading down his spine. Jax's resolve wavered. He thought of Zara, her gentle warmth contrasting Zorath's fiery command, yet here he was, entangled in the Empress's embrace. Their lips met, tentative at first, then deepening into a kiss that tasted of forbidden fruits, sweet, urgent, laced with the tang of power. As they sank onto the soft moss that carpeted the alcove, Zorath's gown slipped away like mist, revealing the perfection of her form, pale skin glowing under the orb's light, curves that invited touch, and those delicate ears flushing with color as arousal built. Jax's hands roamed, gentle yet firm, eliciting soft gasps from her that echoed in the quiet garden. She was a force, guiding him with whispers and touches, her psychic energy weaving tendrils of sensation that amplified every caress, every brush of skin on skin. It was erotic in its intensity. A dance where dominance shifted like tides, her nails grazing his back, his lips trailing fire along her neck, down to the swell of her breasts, where he lingered, drawing out moans that vibrated through the air. Time stretched, suspense hanging like a veil as Jax wondered if this was surrender or strategy. Every moment built upon the last, her body arching beneath him, inviting deeper connection. The pheromones in the air heightened it all, making colors brighter, touches electric. Zorath's eyes never left his, a silent plea mixed with command, her white hair splayed like a halo around them. "More," she breathed, her voice husky, pulling him into her fully, their union a symphony of gasps and whispers that blurred the line between pleasure and peril, but even in the throes of passion, shadows lurked. As they lay entwined afterward, breaths mingling in the afterglow, a distant alarm pierced the night, a subtle chime from the palace's security grid. Zorath tensed, her ears perking up, psychic senses alerting her to intrusion. "Intruders," she hissed, rising swiftly, her gown materializing around her with a thought. Jax scrambled to his feet, heart pounding not just from exertion but from the sudden shift. Who dared breach the Empress's sanctuary? Rival clans, or perhaps allies of the fallen advisor, seeking revenge. They moved as one, slipping through the gardens toward the source. Zorath's hand clasped his, her touch still warm from their intimacy, but now charged with urgency. Guards lay stunned along the path, their forms slumped against crystal walls, victims of some silent weapon. Jax's explorer instincts kicked in. He grabbed a fallen blaster, checking its charge with practiced ease. "Stay close," he murmured, but Zorath shot him a fierce look, her psychic aura flaring like a shield. I am no fragile flower, human, together we end this. The suspense thickened as they approached the inner sanctum, where Zara and Kai were housed. Footsteps echoed faintly, stealthy, professional. Jax's mind raced. If they reached his family first? No, he wouldn't allow it. Bursting into the chamber, they found masked assailants, cloaked in shadow tech that bent light around them. Blasters fired, energy bolts sizzling through the air. Jax dove, rolling behind a pillar, returning fire with precision that dropped one intruder. Zorath unleashed her power, psychic waves slamming another against the wall, bones crunching audibly. The fight was a whirlwind, erotic tension from moments ago fueling Jax's ferocity. He grappled with a third assailant, fists connecting in a brutal rhythm, his human strength overpowering the alien's agility. Zorath, her gown torn but her beauty undiminished, hurled telekinetic blasts that shattered armor. In the chaos, Zara emerged from hiding, Kai in her arms, her own powers joining the fray, a barrier that deflected shots, protecting them all. The last intruder fled, but not before Jax clipped him with a shot, the figure vanishing into the night. Panting, the group regrouped. Zorath's eyes met Jax's, a spark of admiration mingling with the remnants of desire. "You fight like a god," she said, her voice breathless, but the attack had shattered the illusion of safety. Questions burned. Who sent them? And how deep did the conspiracy run? As they secured the room, Jax held Zara close, Kai's small hand clutching his finger, while Zorath watched, her expression a mix of jealousy and resolve. The night had bound them tighter, but the dawn promised more threats, drawing them into a web of intrigue where every touch could be a trap, every whisper a revelation. The following days blurred in a haze of heightened security and stolen moments. Zorath's pregnancy made her more volatile, her mood swinging from tender to tempestuous, often seeking Jax's presence to soothe the storms within. One afternoon, in the privacy of her solar, she pulled him into an embrace that reignited the fire. "The child stirs when you're near," she confessed, guiding his hand to her belly, where faint psychic pulses responded to his touch. Their closeness escalated, bodies entwining on a bed of floating cushions, her curves pressing against him with insistent need. Jax surrendered to the sensation, his lips exploring the sensitive tips of her ears, drawing out shudders that rippled through her. It was a game of power and passion, each encounter laced with suspense. Would Zara discover them? Would the court rebel? Zorath's moans filled the air, soft and commanding, as they moved together, her white hair tangling in his fingers. The eroticism was palpable, a blend of human warmth and alien mystique, building to crescendos that left them both breathless. Yet, in the quiet aftermath, doubts crept in. Jax whispered plans of alliance, but Zorath's eyes held secrets, her demands whispering of possession. Amid this, intelligence reports trickled in. The attackers were from a splinter faction on the Empire's fringe, fueled by purists who viewed hybrids as threats. Jax volunteered for a reconnaissance mission, his human cunning making him ideal for infiltration. Zorath reluctantly agreed, but not before pulling him into one last, fervent union, her body arching, hands clutching, as if to imprint herself upon him. "Return to me," she commanded, her voice a velvet threat, as Jax prepared to depart, boarding a stealth shuttle under cover of darkness. The palace felt alive with unspoken tensions. Zara slipped him a psychic amulet, her kiss a reminder of their bond. "Be careful," she urged, her eyes mirroring his worry. The shuttle lifted off, stars streaking by, carrying Jax toward danger. But in his mind, the erotic pull of Zorath lingered, a siren call amid the suspense of what awaited in the void. The mission unfolded like a taut wire, Jax navigating asteroid fields to reach the rebel outpost. Disguised in Zorathian armor, he infiltrated their base, a cavernous structure burrowed into a barren moon. Eavesdropping on hushed conversations, he learned of a larger plot, an alliance with rival empires, aiming to assassinate Zorath and eradicate the hybrids. The suspense built as he planted trackers, dodging patrols with heart-pounding stealth. One close call had him pressed against a wall, breath held as guards passed inches away, returning triumphant with data. Jax was greeted by Zorath in her chambers, her relief manifesting in a passionate welcome. She stripped away his armor, her touches urgent, body responding with fervor. "You are indispensable," she murmured, pulling him down, their connection a blaze that consumed doubts for the moment. As they lay spent, the Empire's fate hung in balance, erotic bonds forging uneasy alliances, suspense weaving through every heartbeat. The Empire's fate indeed hung in the balance, a fragile equilibrium sustained by the fragile threads of trust and desire that now bound Jax to both Zara and Zorath. In the days following his triumphant return from the rebel outpost, the palace buzzed with a newfound energy, as if the very crystals embedded in its walls had absorbed the tension and amplified it into a palpable hum. Jax pored over the stolen data in the war room, holographic maps projecting swirling patterns of enemy movements across the starry void. Zorath stood beside him, her hand occasionally brushing his arm, a gesture that lingered longer each time, her pregnancy lending a radiant glow to her already ethereal beauty. Zara, ever the gentle counterpoint, cared for Kai in the adjacent nursery, her psychic bond with the child allowing her to sense the undercurrents of unrest rippling through the empire. Yet, amid this uneasy peace, Jax couldn't shake the feeling that the data he'd retrieved was only the tip of a much larger iceberg, one that could sink them all if not navigated with care. As night fell once more, blanketing Zerathia in a velvet darkness punctuated by the distant twinkle of orbiting stations, Jax received a cryptic message on his personal communicator, a device he'd jury-rigged from human tech and Zorathian crystals. It was from an anonymous source within the palace, urging him to meet in the lower archives, where ancient records slumbered in dusty vaults. Curiosity gnawed at him, that same human trait that had led him to Zara's stasis chamber all those months ago. He slipped away under the pretense of a late-night strategy session, his footsteps echoing softly through the labyrinthine halls. The archives were a forgotten realm, shelves towering like silent guardians, filled with scrolls that shimmered with holographic text and artifacts from conquered worlds. There, in the dim glow of a single orb, waited a figure cloaked in shadows, a Zorathian advisor named Vexa, her white hair tied back severely, her pointed ears adorned with subtle jewels that betrayed her high status. "You must know the truth," Vexa whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and defiance, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting guards to burst in at any moment. She activated a hidden projector, and images flickered to life, not just rebel plans, but evidence of a deeper conspiracy. Zorath's cloning program, it revealed, had been sabotaged years ago by a secret cabal within her own court, intent on weakening the bloodline to install a puppet ruler. The fertility serum Jax had accidentally triggered. It wasn't a malfunction, it had been engineered to respond only to non-Zorathian DNA. A desperate failsafe planted by reformers who saw hybridization as the Empire's salvation. But the surprise deepened. Zara wasn't just a clone. She was an enhanced variant, infused with suppressed emotions to test the limits of free will, and Kai, his powers weren't mere chance, they were prophesied in ancient texts as the harbinger of a new era, one where humans like Jax would lead the charge against an impending galactic threat. Jax's mind reeled, the revelations crashing over him like waves in a storm. "Why tell me this now?" he demanded, his voice low but edged with steel, his hand instinctively reaching for the blaster at his side. Vexa's eyes widened, her porcelain skin paling further. "Because the Cabal moves tonight, they plan to assassinate the Empress and frame you, the outsider, to spark civil war. But there's more. Zorath's child, your child, carries a genetic key that could unlock weapons from our ancestors, artifacts capable of reshaping reality itself." The thrill of the moment surged through Jax, his heart pounding as he processed the layers of deceit. Curious about the artifacts, he pressed for details, and Vexa obliged, describing hidden vaults beneath the palace where dormant tech slumbered, devices that bent space-time, amplified psychic fields, and could turn a single warrior into an army. Before he could respond, alarms blared, a piercing wail that shattered the archive's silence. The palace was under attack, not from distant rebels, but from within. Explosions rocked the foundations, sending dust cascading from the ceilings. Jax grabbed Vexa, pulling her toward the exit. "We have to get to Zorath," he shouted over the din, adrenaline fueling his sprint through collapsing corridors. Blasts of energy fire lit the halls as traitorous guards clashed with loyalists, the air thick with the acrid smell of scorched crystal. Jax fought his way upward, his blaster humming as he picked off assailants with deadly accuracy, human reflexes proving superior in the chaos, dodging projectiles that would have felled slower foes. Reaching the royal wing, the scene was one of dramatic pandemonium. Zorath stood defiant in the grand chamber, her gown torn and flowing like a banner of war, psychic energy crackling around her like lightning. She hurled bolts at intruders, her belly protected by a shimmering shield of her own making. Zara was beside her, Kai cradled in one arm while she unleashed telekinetic waves that slammed doors shut and crushed weapons. The two women, original and clone, fought as one, their identical forms a blur of white hair and graceful fury. Jax burst in, his entrance a thrilling crescendo, taking down two guards with precise shots before sliding to Zorath's side. "The Cabal, it's them?" he yelled, relaying Vex's intel in frantic bursts, but the surprises weren't over. As the battle intensified, a hulking figure emerged from the smoke, the Cabal's leader, a massive Zorathian warlord named Rixa, his body augmented with cybernetic enhancements that gleamed menacingly. "The Empire falls tonight," Rixa bellowed, his voice amplified to thunderous levels, charging forward with a vibro blade that hummed with lethal intent. Zorath met him head-on, her psychic assault clashing against his shields in a spectacular display of sparks and force. Jax joined the fray, his human ingenuity shining as he hacked a nearby console to overload Rix's implants, causing the warlord to stagger. Zara, in a curious twist of fate, linked her mind with Zorath's, amplifying their powers in a way no one anticipated, the clone and original syncing perfectly, their combined energy forming a vortex that sucked in debris and hurled it at enemies. The climax built to a fever pitch in the chamber's heart, where the throne itself cracked under the strain. Rixa lunged at Zorath, his blade arcing toward her unprotected side, but Jax intercepted, tackling the behemoth with raw strength. They rolled in a tangle of limbs, Jax's fists pounding against armored plates, drawing blood from the warlord's snarling face. "You underestimate humans," Jax growled, dodging a counterstrike and countering with a knee to the gut that winded Rixa. Zorath, fueled by maternal rage, blasted the warlord back, her eyes blazing with violet fire. In a thrilling maneuver, Kai, still in Zara's arms, let out a cry that resonated psychically, disrupting Rix's enhancements and leaving him vulnerable. Seizing the moment, Jax grabbed a fallen energy lance, thrusting it through Rix's defenses in a dramatic final blow. The warlord collapsed, his body convulsing as systems failed, the room falling silent save for heavy breaths and the distant wail of sirens. But curiosity piqued as Vexa stumbled in, clutching a data crystal. "The artifacts," she gasped, their awakening triggered by the hybrid's presence. A low rumble shook the palace, and from beneath the throne, a hidden panel slid open, revealing a glowing portal to the vaults below. Light poured out, illuminating ancient runes that pulsed with life, hinting at powers untold. Zorath turned to Jax, her expression a mix of awe and uncertainty, her hand on her swelling belly. "What have we unleashed?" she whispered, the thrill of victory mingling with the surprise of discovery. Zara, holding Kai close, met Jax's gaze, a silent question hanging between them, ally or escape. The Empire teetered on the brink, the Cabal shattered but its echoes lingering, as the group descended into the vaults, drawn by the curious hum of awakening tech. Shadows danced on the walls, each step revealing more surprises, forgotten weapons that responded to Jax's touch, as if recognizing his human essence as the key. Deeper in, they found the core artifact, a massive crystal obelisk, etched with prophecies depicting a human figure standing amid stars, hybrids at his side. As Jax approached, it activated with a surge, projecting visions of an invading force from beyond the galaxy, monstrous entities that devoured worlds. The dramatic revelation hit like a thunderclap. The Cabal hadn't just sought power, they'd been puppets of this external threat, weakening Zerathia from within. Thrilling energy coursed through the air as the obelisk bonded with Kai's psychic signature, granting glimpses of future battles where humans led the charge. But the ultimate surprise came when Zorath, touching the crystal, experienced a vision of her own, Jax not as consort, but as equal ruler, their children forging a new dynasty. Her eyes widened, vulnerability cracking her regal facade. You're the one the ancients foretold," she breathed, turning to him with a mix of desire and reverence. Jax, heart racing from the climax of combat and discovery, pulled her and Zara close, the three forming an unbreakable triad amid the glowing vault. Yet, as alarms signaled reinforcements arriving above, a chilling whisper echoed from the obelisk, a warning of betrayal still lurking in the shadows. The night had transformed from erotic entanglement to a whirlwind of dramatic upheaval, leaving them breathless on the edge of greater thrills. Questions swirled. Who else knew of the prophecies? Could they harness the artifacts before the invaders struck? And in this web of surprises, would Jax's human heart guide them to salvation or doom? The vault's light faded slightly, casting long shadows that promised more curiosities ahead. The Empire's destiny, now irrevocably tied to the man from the stars. As the vault's light faded slightly, casting long shadows that promised more curiosities ahead, the Empire's destiny now irrevocably tied to the man from the stars. Jax felt a sudden, inexplicable tug at his core, like the gravity of an unseen planet pulling him off balance. The obelisk's hum lingered in the air, a low vibration that resonated through his bones, making the hairs on his arms stand on end. Zorath, still catching her breath from the visions, placed a protective hand over her belly, her white hair disheveled in a way that made her look less like an empress and more like a woman who just wrestled with fate itself. Zara mirrored her almost perfectly. Kai nestled against her chest, his tiny fingers glowing faintly as if echoing the artifact's energy. Vexa hovered nearby, Data Crystal clutched tightly, her pointed ears twitching with nervous energy. The group stood in stunned silence for a moment, the drama of the night settling over them like a heavy cloak, until Jax broke it with his trademark human bluntness. "Well, if this is the part where the ancient prophecy says I get a crown and a fancy robe, count me in, but only if it comes with coffee. Terra Nova's finest brew, none of this psychic tea nonsense." His attempt at levity fell flat at first, echoing awkwardly in the vault, but Zara let out a soft chuckle, her luminous eyes crinkling at the corners. Zorath shot him a look that could melt steel, though a hint of amusement tugged at her lips. "Human humor," she muttered, shaking her head, "as unpredictable as your genetics." It was a small spark of lightness amid the tension, but it eased the knot in Jax's chest just enough to keep moving forward. They couldn't linger. Alarms still wailed faintly from above, and loyal guards would soon swarm the palace to assess the damage. Zorath led the way out of the vault, her gown swishing with regal authority despite the rips from the battle, her sensual curves undiminished by the chaos. Jax followed closely, his mind racing through the prophecy's implications, him as a foretold leader. It sounded like something out of those old Earth holovids he'd watched as a kid, where plucky humans always saved the day. But this was real, with real stakes, two women bound to him by fate and biology, children who could rewrite the stars, and an empire teetering on the brink. As they ascended via a hidden lift, the awkwardness began to creep in, thickening the air like humidity before a storm. The lift hummed upward, its confined space forcing them into uncomfortable proximity. Zorath and Zara stood on either side of Jax, their identical forms creating a mirror effect that was both mesmerizing and disconcerting. Kai, sensing the tension, let out a gurgle that sounded suspiciously like a laugh, his psychic pulses tickling everyone's minds with images of floating toys. "It's got your sense of timing," Zara said softly to Jax, her hand brushing his arm in a familiar, comforting way. Zorath's ears perked up at that, her violet eyes narrowing slightly as she glanced between them. "And my strength," she added pointedly, her tone laced with a possessiveness that heightened the drama unfolding in this tiny metal box. Jax swallowed hard, caught in the crossfire of their gazes, two versions of the same stunning woman, each claiming a piece of him. It was like being the prize in a cosmic tug-of-war, and for a moment, he half expected them to start comparing notes on his potency right there. "Ladies," he quipped, forcing a grin, "if we're going to play who knows Jax best, let's save it for after we deal with the impending doom. I've got enough on my plate without a jealousy subplot." The lift doors slid open with a chime, spilling them into the palace's command center, a sprawling room alive with holographic displays and scurrying aides. Loyalists had secured the area, bodies of traitors being cleared away with efficient, if grim, precision, but the drama escalated immediately. Reports flooded in of skirmishes erupting across Zerathia's outer colonies, sparked by rumors of the Empress's weakness due to her human entanglement. Zorath strode to the central console, her presence commanding silence, but as she activated the empire-wide broadcast, a glitch hit, courtesy of residual sabotage from the Cabal. The hologram flickered, projecting not her intended message of unity, but a distorted feed of the earlier battle, including a particularly awkward clip of Jax tackling Rixa, his pants torn at the knee in a way that exposed more than intended. The room froze, aides stifling snickers as Jax's face turned a shade of red that clashed with his rugged stubble. "Great," he muttered, pulling at his torn clothing. Nothing says hero of prophecy like a wardrobe malfunction in front of the entire empire. Zorath, ever the picture of poise, waved it off with a psychic command that stabilized the feed, but not before Zara whispered to him. At least it was a good angle. Her elf-like ears flushed pink, adding a touch of humor to the mortifying moment, and Jax couldn't help but laugh, the sound cutting through the tension like a laser through fog. Yet, the awkwardness lingered. amplifying the drama as Zorath addressed her people, her voice booming across the stars, declaring Jax not as a consort, but as the foretold bridge, a title from the prophecies that made him sound more like infrastructure than a lover. Whispers rippled through the aides, some reverent, others skeptical, and Jax shifted uncomfortably, feeling like a specimen under a microscope, to heighten matters. Vexor revealed more from the data crystal during a hasty council meeting in the adjoining strategy room. Seated around a glowing table that projected star maps like a living canvas, the group delved deeper into the invading threat. Shadowy entities known as the Void Swarm, amorphous beings from a parallel dimension that fed on psychic energy. The artifacts could seal the rifts they used to enter, but only if attuned to hybrid blood, meaning Kai and the unborn child were key. Drama peaked as Zorath insisted on immediate attunement rituals, her hand gripping Jax's under the table in a mix of command and desperation. "We must bond the artifacts now," she declared, her curves accentuated by the table's light as she leaned forward, drawing all eyes, but Zara interjected, her voice steady yet laced with emotion. "And what of the risks? Kai is just a child." The room crackled with tension, the two women locking eyes in a silent standoff, Jax stuck in the middle like a human buffer zone. Awkwardness hit its stride when the ritual preparations began in the palace's sacred chamber, a vast hall with floating crystals that amplified psychic fields. Jax was instructed to don a ceremonial robe, a flowing garment of silver threads that, while luxurious, was designed for Zorathian physiology, too tight in some places, too loose in others, making him look like a space pirate who'd raided a fashion show. "This thing's riding up in all the wrong ways," he grumbled, tugging at the fabric as aides stifled giggles. Zorath, clad in a matching gown that hugged her voluptuous form perfectly, her white skin glowing under the lights, tried to suppress a smile. "It suits you, uniquely," she said, her pointed ears twitching with amusement. Zara, in a similar attire that accentuated her sensual figure, added fuel to the fire by whispering, "You look like you're about to perform in a bad opera." Kai, placed on a cushioned altar, cooed happily, his tiny hands waving as if conducting the absurdity. The ritual itself was a whirlwind of heightened drama and unintended humor. As they linked hands around the obelisk, now transported to the chamber, psychic energy surged, weaving visions of the Void Swarm, tentacles of darkness coiling through rifts, devouring entire fleets. Jax's mind flooded with images of battles to come, his human resilience anchoring the group as waves of fear threatened to overwhelm them. But in the midst of this intensity, an awkward surge hit. The link amplified emotions, broadcasting flashes of private memories, including Jax's intimate moments with both women. Zorath's cheeks flushed as a particularly steamy recollection with Jax surfaced, while Zara's eyes widened at glimpses of the Empress's vulnerabilities. Is this part of the prophecy?" Jax joked through gritted teeth, sweat beading on his brow, because if so, the ancients had a weird sense of entertainment. Laughter bubbled up unexpectedly, easing the strain just as a dramatic rift cracked open in the chamber's fabric, a test from the artifacts, summoning a minor void tendril that lashed out like a living shadow. Panic ensued, heightening the stakes as Jax grabbed a nearby energy staff, swinging it with human ferocity while shouting, "Not today, Squidface." The tendril recoiled from his strikes, but not before wrapping around Zorath, pulling her toward the rift. Drama soared as she struggled, her psychic blasts weakening it, but it was Zara who dove in, linking her mind to Jax's for a combined push that shredded the entity. Kai's cry amplified the attack, sealing the breach with a boom that shook the hall. In the aftermath, breathless and entangled on the floor, the awkwardness peaked in a humorous tangle. Jax sprawled between the two women, robes askew, the obelisk humming approval. "Well, that was intimate," he quipped, helping them up, his grin diffusing the tension. Zorath, hair tousled and gown rumpled, let out a rare laugh, a melodic sound that echoed warmly. "You humans turn catastrophe into comedy," she admitted, her hand lingering on his shoulder. Zara nodded, her smile genuine, though shadows of jealousy flickered in her eyes, but the drama wasn't done. Scouts reported void probes nearing the outer systems, and internal dissent brewed among purists who viewed the hybrids as abominations. Jax proposed a bold plan, a diplomatic tour to rally allies, using the artifact's power to demonstrate unity. Zorath agreed, but with a caveat: Jax would accompany her personally, leaving Zara and Kai under heavy guard. The decision sparked an awkward family conference in their quarters, where emotions ran high. "You're choosing her," Zara asked, voice cracking, her elf-like ears drooping slightly. Zorath interjected, "It's for the Empire," but the air thickened with unspoken rivalries. Jax navigated the minefield with humor. "Hey, if I survive this tour without another wardrobe fail, we'll call it a win, and who knows, maybe I'll bring back souvenirs like a void tentacle for the mantle." It lightened the mood, but the underlying drama simmered, promises of greater conflicts ahead. As preparations began, Jax stole a moment with Zara, their kiss a reminder of simpler times, while Zorath watched from afar, her expression a mix of envy and resolve. The tour launched amid fanfare. Jax and Zorath aboard the Imperial flagship, a sleek vessel that cut through hyperspace like a blade. Drama heightened during their first stop on an allied world, where local lords hosted a banquet. Awkwardness ensued when a Zorathian custom demanded a bonding dance, forcing Jax into a swirling routine with Zorath, their bodies pressing close in rhythmic grace. Her curves against him stirred memories, but a misstep sent them tumbling into a fountain, emerging soaked and sputtering. Laughter erupted from the crowd, turning potential embarrassment into a charming tale. "Human feet, two left ones," Zorath teased, her wet gown clinging provocatively, heightening the erotic undercurrent amid the humor. Yet, beneath the levity, threats loomed. Assassins struck during the night, leading to a thrilling chase through the planet's neon-lit streets. Jax's ingenuity shone, using a market stall's gadgets to improvise traps. But the attack revealed a surprising twist, a mole in Zorath's entourage. Back on the ship, interrogations turned dramatic, accusations flying in a council that pitted loyalties against each other. Jax's human intuition pinpointed the traitor, but not without awkward revelations. The mole was infatuated with Zorath, viewing Jax as a rival. "Jealousy's a universal language," Jax quipped, diffusing the tension as the traitor was subdued. As the tour continued, drama built with each world, awkward cultural clashes providing comic relief, like Jax mistaking a sacred fruit for a snack, causing a hallucinogenic hiccup that had him seeing double Zoraths. "Which one's the real you?" he slurred, eliciting giggles from the Empress. But the humor masked growing stakes, void incursions increased, rifts opening unpredictably. In a climactic moment on a frontier station, a massive rift tore open, spewing tendrils that engulfed ships. Jax piloted a fighter, his human daring weaving through chaos, lasers blazing as he protected Zorath's command vessel. The battle was fierce, explosions lighting the void, but with artifact-amplified shields, they repelled the assault barely. Returning to Zerathia, exhausted but victorious, Jax reunited with Zara and Kai, the family dynamic strained yet strengthened. Drama lingered in quiet conversations, awkward admissions of feelings bubbling up. "We're in this together," Jax said, pulling them both close in a humorous group hug that squished Kai into giggles, but whispers of full invasion echoed, promising more trials. The Empire braced, Jax at its heart, his human spirit the unlikely glue holding it all together. As the Empire braced, Jax at its heart, his human spirit the unlikely glue holding it all together, a rare moment of calm descended upon the palace like a gentle nebula drifting through space. The tour's victories had bought them time, alliances strengthened and void probes repelled, but the weight of impending invasion lingered in every council meeting and whispered conversation. Jax found himself retreating to the royal quarters more often, seeking solace in the company of Zara and Zorath, where the lines between duty, affection, and desire blurred into something profoundly intimate. With Kai now toddling about under watchful eyes, his psychic giggles filling the air like soft chimes, the family dynamic had evolved into a delicate balance, one that demanded navigation with care, especially as Zorath's pregnancy advanced, her radiant glow a constant reminder of the life they had created together. One evening, as the twin moons cast silvery light through the chamber's vast windows, illuminating floating crystals that danced lazily in the air, Jax entered to find Zara alone, tending to a holographic garden display. Her white hair cascaded over her shoulders, catching the moonlight in a way that made her seem almost ethereal, her form-fitting attire hugging her curves with elegant simplicity. She turned to him with a warm smile, her pointed ears perking up slightly, a subtle sign of her delight. "You've been gone too long with those strategy sessions," she murmured, stepping closer, her hand reaching out to trace the line of his jaw. The touch was electric, reigniting the spark that had first drawn them together in that hidden lab so long ago. Jax pulled her into his arms, the familiarity of her body against his stirring a deep, comforting warmth that eased the day's tensions. Their kiss began softly, a gentle exploration that spoke of shared history and unspoken promises, but it deepened as emotions surged. Zara's hands wandered, slipping under his shirt to feel the firmness of his chest, her breath quickening as she pressed closer. Jax responded in kind, his fingers weaving through her silky hair, tilting her head to allow their connection to intensify. The room seemed to fade away, leaving only the rhythm of their heartbeats syncing in harmony. She guided him toward the plush bedding alcove, a nest of silken fabrics and glowing cushions that invited surrender. As they sank into it, clothes shedding layer by layer with tender urgency, Jax marveled at her beauty, the smooth expanse of her pale skin, the graceful arch of her back, the way her body responded to his every caress with a shiver of delight. In the quiet intimacy of the moment, they moved together with a natural flow, exploring each other with care and passion. Zara's soft sighs filled the air as Jax's touches grew more purposeful, drawing out sensations that built like a rising tide. Her legs wrapped around him, pulling him nearer, their union a blend of gentleness and fervor that celebrated their bond. He whispered words of affection against her skin, his movements attuned to her rhythms, creating waves of pleasure that washed over them both. Time stretched in that sacred space, their connection a testament to the resilience of love amid cosmic chaos, leaving them breathless and entwined in the afterglow, her head resting on his chest as they shared quiet laughter about the absurdity of their journey. But tranquility was fleeting. Zorath's arrival later that night added layers to the evening's intimacy, her presence announced by the soft swish of her regal gown as she entered the shared quarters. Her pregnancy had enhanced her allure, her voluptuous figure accentuated by the subtle swell, her white hair unbound and flowing like a cascade of starlight. She paused at the sight of Jax and Zara still lounging in the alcove, a flicker of something envy, perhaps, or longing crossing her violet eyes before she composed herself with empress-like poise. "I see you found comfort without me," she said, her voice a melodic tease, though it carried an undercurrent of vulnerability. Jax sat up, extending a hand to her, his human charm bridging the gap. "There's always room for the one who rules the stars," he replied with a grin, diffusing any tension with his easy manner. Zorath accepted the invitation, joining them on the cushions, her body settling beside Jax with a grace that belied her commanding nature. The air thickened with anticipation as conversations turned from empire matters to more personal reflections, the shared visions from the artifacts, the prophecies that wove their fates together. Zara, ever the empathetic one, reached out to touch Zorath's arm, a gesture of unity that surprised them all. "We're in this as one," she whispered, her pointed ears flushing with emotion. What followed was a tender exploration of their unique connection, the three of them navigating the complexities of affection with mutual respect and curiosity. Jax found himself at the center, his touches gentle and attentive, first to Zorath's sensitive curves, eliciting soft responses that echoed her inner strength. Her hands guided him, her psychic energy adding a subtle layer of heightened sensation, making every brush of skin feel amplified, like stars igniting in the void. Zara joined seamlessly, her presence a harmonious counterpoint, their movements a dance of shared intimacy that built gradually, focusing on emotional closeness as much as physical. Whispers of encouragement and affection filled the space, bodies aligning in ways that celebrated their bonds without rush or dominance. Zorath's moans were soft and controlled, her body arching in response to the care bestowed upon her, while Zara's warmth provided a grounding balance. The experience was profound, a blending of human passion with Zorathian grace, where pleasure unfolded in waves that left them all fulfilled and connected on a deeper level. In the quiet aftermath, they lay together, limbs entwined, the moon's light bathing them in serenity. Zorath's hand rested on her belly, feeling the subtle stirrings within, while Jax held Zara close, Kai's distant coos from the nursery a reminder of their growing legacy. Laughter bubbled up again as Jax quipped about the perks of prophecy, easing any lingering awkwardness into comfortable companionship. Yet, even in this haven, the Empire's shadows crept in. A late-night alert from the command center interrupted their repose, a psychic probe from the void swarm, probing Zerathia's defenses with insidious tendrils of dark energy. Zorath rose first, her gown materializing around her with a thought, determination etching her features. "We cannot ignore this," she stated, her voice regaining its imperial edge. Jax and Zara followed suit, dressing swiftly, the intimacy of moments ago fueling their resolve rather than distracting from it. They convened in the war room, holograms flickering with ominous data, the swarm's rifts growing bolder, targeting hybrid signatures like beacons. Drama simmered as advisors debated responses, but Jax's human perspective cut through. We hit them where it hurts, use the artifacts to counterprobe, turn their own energy against them. Zorath nodded, her hand brushing his in silent approval, while Zara's psychic link with Kai revealed the child's instinctive defenses flaring in response to the threat. Preparations intensified over the following days, blending strategy with stolen moments of closeness that kept their spirits high. One afternoon, in the privacy of a garden alcove similar to where Jax and Zorath had first deepened their bond, the trio found respite again. The air was scented with blooming vines, pheromones subtly enhancing the atmosphere. Zorath, feeling the weight of leadership, sought comfort in Jax's arms, her body pressing against his with a need born of stress and affection. Their kiss was fervent, hands exploring with familiar tenderness, leading to a private union where emotions ran as deep as the physical connection. Jax's attentions were loving and attentive, focusing on her responses, drawing out sighs of relief and pleasure that eased her burdens. Her curves yielded to his touch, the moment a sanctuary amid turmoil, culminating in a shared release that left her glowing with renewed energy. Zara joined later, the dynamic shifting to include her, creating a tapestry of intimacy that strengthened their alliance. Soft touches, whispered endearments, and harmonious movements wove them closer, the experience a celebration of life in the face of darkness. As nights blurred, these intimate interludes became anchors, each one building on the last without overshadowing the plot's urgency. During a council break, Jax and Zara shared a quiet encounter in the observatory, stars wheeling overhead as their bodies came together in passionate unity, her soft cries mingling with the hum of the universe. Zorath, upon discovering them, integrated seamlessly, turning the moment into one of collective bonding that transcended individual desires. But the Void's advances escalated, forcing action. A daring mission was planned, Jax leading a strike team to a rift nexus, armed with artifact-enhanced weapons. Before departure, the three shared a final, poignant evening of closeness, emotions heightened by the risk ahead. Touches lingered, kisses deepened, and their union was a profound affirmation of love and loyalty, leaving no room for regret. As Jax boarded the shuttle, the palace receding behind him, he carried the warmth of those moments like armor. The mission unfolded with thrilling precision, but upon arrival at the Nexus, a swirling maelstrom of dark energy, betrayal struck from an unexpected quarter, heightening the peril and setting the stage for revelations that would test everything they had built. As Jax boarded the shuttle, the palace receding behind him, he carried the warmth of those moments like armor, a shield against the cold void that awaited. The mission to the Rift Nexus had been meticulously planned in the war room's holographic glow, with Zorath's strategic mind and Zara's intuitive insights weaving a net of contingencies around every potential threat. Jax's strike team, a mix of elite Zorathian warriors and a few human allies he'd recruited from Terra Nova outposts, filled the shuttle's hold, their armor humming with artifact-infused enhancements that pulsed like living veins. The Nexus itself was a beast of cosmic proportions, a tier in reality where the Void swarm's dimension bled into theirs, twisting space into knots of shadow and chaos. As the shuttle hurtled through hyperspace, Jax reviewed the data on his wrist hologram, his thoughts drifting back to the tender farewells, Zorath's lingering kiss, her hand on his cheek whispering promises of return, and Zara's embrace, her body fitting perfectly against his as if to imprint her essence for the journey ahead. The jump ended with a shudder, the shuttle emerging into a field of swirling darkness that made stars wink out like dying embers. The Nexus loomed ahead, a massive vortex of Inkai tendrils coiling outward, probing for weaknesses in the fabric of existence. Jax strapped into the pilot's seat, his fingers dancing over controls with the confidence of a man who dodged black holes for fun. Team, eyes sharp. He commanded over the comms, his voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through him. The warriors nodded, their pointed ears visible beneath helmets, a reminder of the alien grace that complemented his human grit. They deployed in formation, small fighters peeling off to flank the Nexus, while Jax's vessel dove straight for the core, a daring insertion to plant the artifact device that would seal the rift from within. Thrilling precision indeed marked the initial approach. Lasers from the team sliced through minor tendrils, artifact shields flaring brilliantly against counterattacks that felt like psychic screams echoing in their minds. Jax maneuvered with expert flair, weaving through the maelstrom, the shuttle's hull groaning under the strain. "Almost there," he muttered, sweat beading on his brow as the core's pulsing heart came into view, a throbbing orb of pure void energy, surrounded by writhing shadows. The team converged, docking clamps engaging as they prepared to board the Nexus platform, a derelict structure from some ancient civilization caught in the rift's grasp. But betrayal struck from an unexpected quarter, heightening the peril in ways Jax could never have anticipated. As the airlock hissed open, Vexa, the advisor who'd revealed the Cabal's secrets in the archives, stepped forward to lead the insertion. Her data crystal glowing in hand, she'd insisted on joining, her knowledge of the artifacts deemed invaluable. Yet, as they advanced into the platform's dimly lit corridors, flickering with erratic energy, Vexa's demeanor shifted. Her steps faltered, her white hair escaping her helmet in disarray, and when a tendril lashed out from a side vent, she didn't raise her shield. Instead, she turned her blaster on the team. The shot rang out, catching a Zorathian warrior in the chest, body crumpling with a gasp. Chaos erupted in the confined space, shouts echoing as Jax spun, his instincts kicking in. "Vexa, what the?" But her eyes, usually sharp with loyalty, now burned with a fanatic gleam, her pointed ears flattened against her head in determination. "You fools," she snarled, her voice distorted by the Nexus's interference. "The prophecies lied. The hybrids aren't salvation, they are the key to the swarm's victory." She fired again, forcing Jax to dive behind a console, his heart pounding not just from the fight but from the shock of her words. The team rallied, returning fire, but Vexa's betrayal had been calculated. She'd sabotaged the artifact device en route, its hum turning erratic as void energy surged through the platform. Tendrils burst from walls, animated by her command, wrapping around warriors and pulling them into the shadows with bone-chilling screams. Jax fought back fiercely, his blaster blazing as he took down 2 tendrils, his human agility allowing him to flip over a charging shadow form. "Why, Vexa?" he demanded, grappling with her in a hand-to-hand struggle that sent them tumbling across the grated floor. Her body pressed against his in the melee, a twisted echo of the intimacies he'd known with her kin, but now fueled by rage. The swarm promised purity. She hissed, her nails raking his arm, drawing blood. "No more dilution from your kind. I was their agent all along, the Cabal was my creation." The revelation hit like a plasma blast, a powerful twist that shattered Jax's understanding of everything. Vexa hadn't been a reformer, she'd been the architect of the Empire's internal rot, planted deep within Zorath's court to pave the way for the Void Swarm's invasion. The data she'd revealed in the archives, fabricated breadcrumbs to lure them here, to this nexus where the swarm could harvest the hybrid energies directly. As they wrestled, her psychic assault probed his mind, flashing images of her secret communications with the swarm, amorphous entities whispering promises of a cleansed galaxy, free from the impurity of human influence. Surprise coursed through Jax. He trusted her, seen her as an ally in the prophecies, but this betrayal explained the seamless attacks, the moles that had evaded detection. In the midst of the struggle, the platform shook violently, rifts widening as the swarm responded to her call. Jax's team dwindled, brave warriors succumbing to the shadows, their cries fueling his determination. He broke free from Vexa's grasp, landing a solid punch that sent her reeling, blood trickling from her lip. "You underestimated us," he growled, echoing his words from past battles, but now laced with bitter irony. Grabbing the sabotaged artifact, he improvised, human ingenuity at its peak, rerouting its energy with a quick hack from his wrist device, turning it into a makeshift bomb rather than a seal. The twist deepened as Vexa's true form began to shift, her body convulsing under the Nexus's influence. Her pale skin rippled, revealing tendrils of void essence woven into her very DNA. She wasn't just an agent. She was a hybrid of Zorathian and swarm, a sleeper created eons ago during an ancient incursion. "I am the bridge you feared," she laughed maniacally, her voice multiplying into echoes as shadows coalesced around her. Jax's mind reeled. This explained her intimate knowledge, her ability to mimic loyalty so perfectly. The surprise was visceral, taking his breath away. If Vexa was part swarm, how many others lurked in the Empire? Dodging her enhanced attacks, claws extending from her fingers, psychic blasts that warped reality, Jax fought with everything he had. The platform's core chamber became their arena, energy arcs crackling like lightning as he circled her, blaster empty but fists ready. For Zorath, for Zara, for Kai, he muttered, channeling the warmth of their bonds into raw fury. He lured her toward the throbbing orb, her overconfidence her downfall. With a feint, he activated the rigged artifact, hurling it at her feet. The explosion was cataclysmic, a burst of light that shredded the tendrils and sent Vexa screaming into the void, her form dissolving into wisps of darkness. But the blast destabilized the Nexus further, rifts exploding outward in a chain reaction. Jax staggered, arms crackling with static as he called for evacuation. Only a handful of his team remained, piling into escape pods as the platform crumbled. His shuttle detached just in time, engines roaring as it fled the collapsing maelstrom. Debris pelted the hull, alarms blaring, but Jax piloted through, emerging into clear space with a gasp of relief. The Nexus sealed itself in the implosion, a temporary victory, but one bought at a heavy cost. Back on Zerathia, the palace was a hive of activity upon his return, Zorath and Zara rushing to meet him in the landing bay. Their embraces were fierce, bodies pressing close in a rush of emotion, Zorath's curves yielding against him, Zara's warmth enveloping him from the other side. "You made it," Zorath breathed, her hand on his chest, feeling his heartbeat, but as Jax recounted the betrayal, the twist left them stunned. Vexa's swarm heritage explained gaps in their defenses, but it raised horrifying questions. Were there more like her? And if the prophecies had been manipulated, what else was a lie? The revelation sent shockwaves through the court, purges beginning as psychic scans rooted out potential infiltrators. Drama intensified in private quarters that night, the trio seeking solace in each other's arms. Zorath, vulnerable in her pregnancy, pulled Jax close, their kiss deepening into a passionate reunion. Her body, soft and inviting, responded to his touches with urgent need, hands exploring as they reaffirmed their connection. Zara joined, the intimacy a balm against the surprise's sting, movements harmonious and loving, building to shared peaks that washed away the day's horrors. Yet, the twist's aftermath lingered. In council, advisors debated the prophecy's authenticity. But Jax's human skepticism shone, prophecies or not, we fight for what we build. Scouts reported swarm fleets massing beyond the Nexus scar, the invasion imminent. A new plan formed, harnessing the artifacts fully, with hybrids at the core. Amid preparations, another surprise emerged. Zorath's scans revealed her child wasn't one, but twins, hybrids with unprecedented potential. "Our legacy grows," she whispered, her eyes meeting Jax's in wonder. But whispers of dissent grew. Some viewed the betrayal as proof humans brought doom. Jax trained relentlessly, sparring with warriors in the arena, his body honed and ready. One session turned heated, a young Zorathian challenging him out of fear, but Jax's victory, pinned with a grin, won respect. "We're stronger together," he said, echoing HFY spirit. Intimacy wove through the tension. A stolen moment with Zara in the gardens, their union tender under blooming vines, her sighs a melody of trust. Zorath later claimed him in her chambers, passion fierce, bodies entwining in a dance of power and surrender. As fleets mobilized, Jax stood on the bridge, Zorath and Zara at his side, Kai's psychic presence a beacon. The twist had surprised, but it forged them anew, ready for the storm. The battle loomed, but in quiet hours they dreamed of peace, bonds unbreakable. Yet, a final whisper from the artifacts hinted at more twists, a hidden ally within the swarm, waiting to turn the tide. The battle loomed indeed, a colossal shadow stretching across the stars, but in those quiet hours before the storm, Jax, Zorath, and Zara clung to dreams of peace, their unbreakable bonds a fragile light against the encroaching darkness. The artifact's final whisper, that cryptic hint of a hidden ally within the swarm, had sparked a frenzy of speculation in the palace's war councils, advisors poring over ancient scans and psychic echoes like scholars deciphering a forbidden text. Jax paced the command bridge of the flagship, his boots thudding softly on the crystalline deck, while Zorath issued orders with her usual imperial flair, her swelling belly a symbol of hope amid the tension. Zara, ever the steady presence, monitored Kai's growing powers from a nearby console, the child's innocent laughter bubbling through the psychic link like a reminder that life persisted even on the brink. As fleets assembled in Zerathia's orbit, a majestic armada of sleek vessels glinting under the system's dual suns, the drama heightened with every passing moment, whispers of the ally turning into heated debates. "If this entity exists," Zorath declared during a strategy session, her white hair tied back in a warrior's knot, her voluptuous form commanding the room despite the subtle waddle in her step. We must draw it out, but how? Jax leaned against the holographic table, arms crossed, his human pragmatism cutting through the ethereal discussions. Bait, he suggested with a wry grin. We dangle something they can't resist, the hybrids, me included, since apparently I'm the foretold bridge or whatever cosmic title you've slapped on me this week. The room fell silent, then erupted in murmurs, Zorath's violet eyes locking onto his with a mix of admiration and exasperation. You'd risk everything? She asked, her voice softening, hand instinctively cradling her abdomen where the twins stirred. The plan coalesced around that bold idea, a feigned vulnerability, luring the swarm to a neutral sector where the artifacts could amplify a psychic call, hopefully summoning the ally. But as preparations ramped up, awkward situations began to weave through the drama like unexpected asteroid fields. During a final equipment check in the armory, Jax suited up in enhanced armor, sleek Zorathian tech fused with human mods that hugged his frame a bit too snugly in certain areas. Zara helped fasten the clasps, her fingers lingering on his chest plate, a private smile playing on her lips. You look imposing, she teased, her pointed ears twitching with amusement. Just then, Zorath entered, catching the intimate moment, her own armor accentuating her curves in a way that made Jax's breath hitch. Am I interrupting? She asked, one eyebrow arched, the air thickening with unspoken rivalry. Jax cleared his throat, fumbling with a gauntlet. Nope, just making sure I don't trip over my own feet and doom the galaxy. You know, human stuff. The women exchanged glances, a shared chuckle breaking the tension, but the awkward undercurrent lingered, heightening the emotional stakes as they all boarded the lead ship, en route to the sector. The flagship's confines amplified every interaction, turning the journey into a pressure cooker of drama and unintended humor. In the mess hall, during a tense meal meant to boost morale, Kai, now more mobile and mischievous, decided to test his telekinetic skills by levitating food trays. A glob of nutrient paste sailed through the air, splattering across Zorath's pristine uniform right on her chest. The Empress froze, her regal poise cracking as she stared down at the mess. This is not the conquest I envisioned. She deadpanned, wiping it off with exaggerated dignity. Jax burst out laughing, unable to contain it, while Zara stifled giggles behind her hand. Hey, at least it's not void slime, Jax quipped, helping clean her up, his touches turning tender amid the crew's muffled snickers. The moment diffused some anxiety, but it also underscored the awkward reality. Here they were, a makeshift family on the edge of apocalypse, dealing with toddler antics while plotting interstellar salvation. Drama escalated as they neared the sector, sensors picking up swarm signatures, massive, amorphous fleets coalescing like living storms. Zorath took the helm for the psychic broadcast, her body linked to the artifacts via crystalline conduits that glowed against her skin. Jax stood beside her, hand on her shoulder for support, feeling the twins' energies pulse through the connection. If this ally doesn't show, she whispered, vulnerability etching her features, we fight alone. Zara, from the auxiliary station with Kai secured in a harness, nodded solemnly, her own psychic aura flaring in solidarity. The broadcast went out, a beacon of hybrid essence, amplified to pierce the void. For agonizing minutes, nothing happened, tension coiling like a spring as swarm tendrils probed their shields. Then, the awkward pinnacle arrived in a surge of surprise. The ally responded, but not as expected. A rift cracked open not with hostility, but with a shimmering figure emerging, a ethereal being that materialized on the bridge in a haze of light. It was humanoid, with flowing white hair and pointed ears eerily similar to the Zorathians, but its form shifted like liquid shadow, revealing glimpses of swarm essence. I am Naira, it intoned, voice a chorus of echoes, the first hybrid, born of ancient union between your kind and mine. The crew gasped, weapons raising instinctively, but Jax stepped forward, piecing it together. You're like Vexa, but on our side. Naira's form stabilized, revealing a feminine grace with curves that mirrored Zorath and Zara's, her skin a swirling mix of pale luminescence and dark voids. Vexa was my shadow, corrupted. I am the light, the one who fled into the swarm to subvert from within. The revelation heightened the drama to fever pitch, questions tumbling out. Naira explained, eons ago, a Zorathian explorer had bonded with a swarm entity, creating her as a bridge for peace. But purists on both sides had twisted the narrative, leading to wars. She'd hidden, waiting for the prophecies to align with Jax as the catalyst. but the awkwardness hit like a comet when Naira's gaze lingered on Jax, her form adapting to mimic Zorathian allure. "Your essence calls to me," she said, stepping closer, her hand extending in a gesture that felt too intimate. Zorath bristled, her possessive streak flaring. "He is ours," she stated flatly, while Zara's ears flattened in discomfort. Jax, caught in the crossfire, rubbed his neck. "Whoa, let's pump the brakes on the cosmic flirting. I'm flattered, but I've got enough interspecies drama to last a lifetime." Naira tilted her head, confused by the humor, but the quip eased the moment, drawing reluctant smiles even as swarm forces closed in. With Naira's intel, the battle plan evolved, her insider knowledge revealing weak points in the swarm's hive mind. But drama surged during the engagement. Fleets clashed in a spectacular void ballet, lasers carving through tendrils, artifact beams sealing minor rifts. Jax piloted a fighter wing, his voice crackling over comms with encouragement. "Stay tight, folks, remember, we're the underdogs who bite back." A near miss sent his ship spinning, shields flaring, heightening the peril as he righted it just in time to blast a pursuing shadow. Back on the flagship, Zorath commanded with fierce intensity, but labor pains struck unexpectedly. The twins, sensing the chaos, deciding now was the moment to arrive. Awkward panic ensued, medics rushed in amid blaring alarms, Zorath gripping the command chair as contractions hit. "Not now," she growled through gritted teeth, her white hair matted with sweat. Zara took over tactics, her calm voice a anchor, while Naira projected a protective field. Jax, hearing the news mid-dogfight, barreled back to the ship. "Hold on, I'm coming," he shouted, dodging enemy fire in a heart-pounding race. Bursting onto the bridge, he found Zorath in a makeshift medbay alcove, her gown discarded for practicality, vulnerability raw amid the battle's roar. "You, idiot human," she panted, grabbing his hand as another contraction hit. "Timing's everything," Jax joked weakly, kneeling beside her, his humor a lifeline. Zara hovered nearby, Kai in her arms, the child's psychic calm soothing the room. The birth was a whirlwind of drama and miracle. Twins emerged amid explosions, rocking the ship, one boy with Jax's dark eyes, one girl with Zorath's violet glow, their cries syncing with a psychic wave that disrupted swarm communications. Naira amplified it, turning the tide as enemy formations faltered. Humor peeked through when the boy, later named Leo, telekinetically grabbed Jax's finger with surprising strength. "Kid's got a grip like a black hole." Jax laughed, tears in his eyes, as medics wrapped the newborns. Zorath, exhausted but triumphant, pulled him into a kiss. "Our family saves us all." But awkward tensions resurfaced post-battle, the swarm retreating in disarray thanks to Naira's sabotage. In recovery quarters, Naira attempted integration, her form shifting to join family moments, once materializing during a private feeding, causing Zorath to yelp and cover up. "Boundaries, ally," Jax exclaimed, chuckling as Naira apologized, her swarm nature misunderstanding personal space. Zara mediated with grace, but jealousy simmered, heightening emotional undercurrents. As peace negotiations began, Naira bridging swarm factions, the Empire celebrated, but internal awkwardness peaked at a victory banquet. Jax, honored as co-ruler, tripped on his ceremonial robe during a speech, tumbling into a fountain with a splash. Laughter roared, Zorath and Zara pulling him out, their gowns soaked in solidarity. Human grace at its finest. Zorath teased, her curves glistening, turning embarrassment into a bonding tale. Drama lingered with purist uprisings, small skirmishes testing alliances. Jax led a raid on a holdout moon, his team ambushed in awkward close quarters, hiding in a cargo bay amid romantic holo-novels that autoplayed steamy scenes. "Not the time," he muttered, blushing as warriors snickered, but it provided cover for a surprise counterattack. Back home, family dynamics evolved, twins' powers caused humorous mishaps, like levitating furniture during dinners, leading to awkward chases. Parenting in Zero-G wasn't in the prophecy, Jax quipped, catching a floating chair, Zorath's stern commands mixed with laughter, Zara's warmth balancing it all. Yet, a new threat whispered, remnants of Vex's cabal allying with rogue swarm. Drama built in a council where Naira revealed her own vulnerabilities, a heart linked to the swarm that could be exploited. "I need anchoring," she admitted awkwardly, eyes on Jax. Zorath's jealousy flared. "Over my clone body," she snapped, but humor softened it when Kai babbled agreement. They forged ahead, bonds tested but unbreakable, the galaxy's fate in their hands, as stars aligned for the final push. Awkward intimacies and dramatic revelations promised an epic close, as stars aligned for the final push. Awkward intimacies and dramatic revelations indeed promised an epic close, but in the heart of Zerathia's command nexus, Jax felt the weight of it all settling into a resolute calm, like the eye of a nebula storm where clarity emerged from chaos. The remnants of Vex's cabal, now allied with rogue swarm elements, had been tracked to a forsaken nebula cluster, a swirling graveyard of ancient wrecks where rifts festered like open wounds. Naira's insights had pinpointed the location, her hybrid nature allowing her to sense the distortions in the void, but the cost of her involvement had grown personal, her anchoring requiring deeper integration into their family dynamic. Zorath, ever the strategist, had orchestrated the assault with precision. Her twins, Leo and the girl they'd named Mira, safely ensconced in the palace under Zara's watchful eye, their nascent powers already weaving protective veils around the core worlds. The flagship cut through hyperspace, emerging into the nebula's hazy glow, where derelict ships floated like ghosts of forgotten wars. Jax stood on the bridge, his enhanced armor feeling like a second skin now, etched with runes that pulsed in sync with the artifacts. Zorath was at his side, her presence a blend of imperial strength and maternal softness, her white hair braided for battle, her curves armored yet undeniably graceful. "This ends today," she murmured, her hand slipping into his, a quiet affirmation amid the hum of engines and crew preparations. Naira hovered nearby, her form stabilized into a more solid Zorathian likeness, though shadows still danced at her edges, a constant reminder of her dual heritage. The awkwardness of her earlier intrusions had evolved into tentative acceptance. She'd learned boundaries through humorous trial and error, like the time she'd accidentally projected a swarm lullaby during a family meal, sending utensils floating in confusion. Human adaptability is infectious, she'd admitted with a rare smile, easing the tension that once simmered. Drama unfolded as the fleet engaged. Swarm vessels, twisted amalgamations of organic tendrils and stolen tech, surged from the nebula's depths, their assaults psychic as much as physical. Blasts rocked the flagship, shields flaring in brilliant cascades, but Jax's human tactics shone, deploying decoy drones rigged with hybrid signatures to draw fire, turning the enemy's hunger against them. Flank left hit their neural clusters. He barked over comms, piloting a squadron personally, his fighter weaving through debris with daring loops that left Zorathian pilots in awe. Explosions lit the void, tendrils shattering like glass under concentrated fire, but the Cabal's leader, a warped Zorathian augmented with swarm essence, broadcast taunts across frequencies, vowing to eradicate the human taint. In the midst of the fray, awkward vulnerability struck. Zorath's link to the artifacts faltered under a psychic backlash, her body trembling as memories of Vex's betrayal flooded her mind. Jax docked hastily, rushing to the bridge where she knelt, sweat beading on her porcelain skin. "I can't hold it," she gasped, her pointed ears drooping, the Empress reduced to raw emotion. Naira stepped in, merging her energy with Zorath's in an intimate psychic fusion that blurred their forms momentarily, shadows mingling with light. Jax knelt beside them, his hand on Zorath's shoulder, grounding her with human warmth. "You've got this, we've got this," he said, his voice steady, injecting humor to cut the edge. "Besides, if we lose, who's going to explain to the twins why Daddy didn't bring home a souvenir tentacle?" Zorath's laugh was weak but genuine, the moment forging them closer as the link stabilized, unleashing a wave that crippled enemy ships. The climax built in the nebula's core, where the Cabal's stronghold, a massive, pulsating hive loomed. Jax led the boarding party, boots clanging on organic corridors that pulsed like veins, blasters humming. Fights erupted in close quarters, tendrils lashing, augmented foes charging with feral roars. Jax's strength prevailed, dodging claws and countering with precise strikes, his human endurance outlasting their fury. Naira revealed her full power, dissolving barriers with shadow tendrils of her own, but the leader confronted them in the hive's heart, a chamber throbbing with dark energy. "You think hybrids are the future?" The leader sneered, form shifting grotesquely. "They are the end." The battle was visceral. Jax grappled hand to tendril, muscles straining as he pinned the foe, Zorath's psychic blasts weakening it from afar. Naira delivered the twist, merging with the leader to purge the corruption, her sacrifice echoing through the link, a final act of redemption for her kind. "Go, build the bridge," she whispered, fading into light as the hive imploded. Escape was narrow, the team fleeing in escape pods as explosions chained through the nebula, sealing rifts in a spectacular blaze. Back on Zerathia, the Empire erupted in celebration, fireworks of crystal light illuminating the skies, crowds chanting Jax's name alongside Zorath's. The awkward intimacies of the journey had transformed into unbreakable unity. Zara greeted them at the palace gates, Kai toddling forward with Leo and Mira in tow, the children's laughter a symphony of hope. "You did it," Zara breathed, pulling Jax into an embrace, her body fitting perfectly against his, Zorath joining seamlessly, their family whole. In the quiet aftermath, as moons rose over floating gardens, Jax reflected on the path that led here, from a crash-landed explorer to galactic savior. Zorath, her gown flowing like liquid starlight, stood with him on a balcony, hand on his arm. "You changed everything," she said softly, her violet eyes shining. Zara approached from behind, wrapping arms around them both. "We all did," she corrected, her warmth a gentle anchor. The twins cooed psychically, images of peace flooding their minds, worlds united, humans and Zorathians coexisting in harmony. Humor lingered in their new normal, Kai's telekinesis causing playful chaos, like levitating Jax during a council meeting, drawing laughs from dignitaries. Human dads always the entertainment. Jax quipped, floating upside down, but deeper bonds prevailed. Intimate evenings wove affection and passion, bodies entwining in celebrations of life. Each touch a promise of forever. The galaxy healed, alliances flourished. Swarm remnants integrated under reformed pacts, hybrids like the children becoming beacons of progress. Jax, no longer just an explorer, co-ruled with wisdom and wit, his HFY spirit inspiring tales across stars, humanity's resilience, love's power, conquering all. Years later, as elders, they watched their descendants venture forth, the Empire a thriving tapestry. "It started with an accident," Jax mused, holding Zorath and Zara close, "and ended with eternity." Under eternal stars, their story closed not with fanfare, but with quiet joy, a good ending, where love and courage etched victory into the cosmos. And so, in the golden twilight of Zerathia's endless stars, Jax, Zorath, and Zara watched their children grow into legends, forging a universe where humanity's spirit shone brightest, proving that love conquers even the void. As the storyteller, I personally loved crafting this epic HFY tale. It's a reminder that humans aren't just survivors, we're dreamers who turn impossible odds into triumphs. What do you think? Could you survive as Jax in this galaxy? Thank you all for joining this adventure. Your likes, subs, comments, and shares are the biggest motivation for us to create even better stories. Hit that button and let's explore more universes together.